1 2. Kevin check 1 2. This is Kevin check 1 2. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another Pro2Pro live stream. Today, we are going to be talking about insurance. So if you are a professional, there are a lot of things that you need to be thinking about for yourself and your crew. And if you're a homeowner and you're going through something like this, believe it or not, there's a lot of things you need to be thinking about as well. So we have partnered with our friends at State Farm. We have one of their experts with us here today. We're going to be talking about these issues, and as I mentioned, we are live, so you have the opportunity to get your questions to us, and hopefully we will get to them. You can put them into the comments section. And we are coming to you, another benefit is that you're getting a little bit of a sneak peek. This is a brand new This Old House project that we have just begun. It is going to be for the upcoming season. It is one of 3 that we're working on, and this one happens to be a shingle-style house built in the 1890s. It sits just north of Boston on a little spit of land called Cape Ann. It is a grand old house. A new young couple has moved into it and has asked Silva Brothers to do some work. We're going to follow it along, and well, we're going to give you a little bit of a tour as this as well. So let me check in with Charlie and our expert. Caleb, nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Pleasure. Charlie, good to see you again.
Nice to you.
So you have not had a chance to see the house, so we're going to give you a little bit of a tour as we give the folks who are watching us live a tour. Charlie, we started just a couple weeks ago, and you are off to the races with demolition.
We did. We started demoing. We demoed the kitchen a little while ago and letting the stuff pile up.
Yep, so we've got a front living room right here. The homeowners have told us that they'd like to keep it a living room. Eventually, you're going to pop through that wall in there, get to the new dining room on that side?
Yes. Yeah, and the breakfast room on the other end of it.
Yep. Caleb, as you see stuff like this, do you see liability? Do you see opportunity? I mean, what goes through your mind when you look at a big full-blown construction project like this?
Yeah, I think a little bit of both.
Yeah. I mean, it's all right here, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. What could possibly go wrong? So there's a big open entryway right here. If you guys will sneak in right there, this is classic shingle style, big grand entryway. Right now it is holding some of the demolition. But as we come through here, Charlie, we are into what they're using as a dining room, but
Yes.
they've asked us to change it around.
Yeah, the plans call for, well, this is the existing dining room. Kitchen is back in the back corner, and the new kitchen is going to have this wall removed.
Kitchen's going to end up going here.
And here, all the way out through that window, you can see to the railing, which is where the sink will be. So this will be all kitchen.
Yeah. Caleb, you get on a lot of job sites? Is it part of the gig, or is it more sort of an underwriting from the desk?
Yeah, more underwriting from the desk. We do a lot of inspections on completed homes or
Completed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, then you're going to be the beneficiary of this one, not even halfway through, just getting started. A lot of changes. Let's keep going. So this becomes the kitchen. That gets bounced off the back. As we come through this little entryway off of the grand staircase entryway, we slide into this room in here, and about 8 hours ago or so, this was the working kitchen. Not originally the kitchen of the house. We figure it was built when? 70s-ish or so?
Yeah, probably in that area, sure.
I mean, we had Formica on the countertops, and we have, brick in here. That's clearly not back to the original 1890s or so.
Yeah, we had strip oak flooring original, put down then. But this is going to be the new family room.
Family room, right.
Right, so.
So it's going to be actually connected over to that side with the kitchen right there. And Charlie was just telling us, literally, this was getting demoed, just minutes ago. We've already found our first bits of asbestos.
Yes.
We've got the tiles on the floor.
We do. We actually have multiple layers because way back there was original sheet goods which had asbestos based in it.
Right.
And then there was another layer put in when the kitchen was probably renovated, 50, 60 years ago.
Yeah, and so with asbestos, we have got to do abatements, and that is not a big leap for homeowners to think about. Oh, good heavens, what is the liability that goes with that? Who are the contractors? You're not going to do the abatement. You're going to bring into a subcontractor. So it's a perfect jumping off point in terms of helping us think this through, Caleb. There has got to be some sort of a pyramid. So, sort of like, you get into the insurance through somebody. Does it come through Charlie? Does it come through the subs? Does the homeowners thing? Give us some sort of perspective as to how we should be thinking about how this insurance gets into the house during a construction project.
Yeah, absolutely. It all begins in the planning process. So as much as you're hiring an architect, you're hiring a general contractor, you need to make sure that your insurance is in line and ready to go for the project that you're undertaking. So if you hired Charlie, Charlie would hire the
Individual subcontractors.
exactly,
Right.
and make sure that they were insured and had the proper insurance.
Right. Now, I have an environmental company that's coming in to do the demo. They actually come in and they test all aspects, whether it's wall samples, ceiling samples, maybe some linoleum in a bathroom. They literally will go around and poke holes everywhere, take samples everywhere, go back and test, and they will come back and tell us what has to be demoed properly by them.
So we work with a ton of subs and a ton of different things. I'm just going to run some what we call B-roll from other projects. And if you guys take a look at this one here, this is a couple projects ago, and we had to take out a lot of trees. They happen to be behind the house. So, I mean, as you know, Charlie, this means bringing in big trucks. We've got cranes. We've got chippers. We've got guys on the ground with chainsaws, 10 or 12 guys from this crew. That's a lot going on, and quite honestly, a lot that could go wrong. Right? I mean, how much are you worried about that, and what are you sort of doing? There's also, I'm thinking about other projects that we've done. Moving to another bit of B-roll, Mark McCullough, one of your subs, our mason, he's working with apprentices that we had, young people, and then eventually we suited them up because there was some abatement to be done as they helped us work on the porch because there was lead paint and stuff like that. Constantly top of mind for you, Charlie, as the guy running the job site, or are you sort of, nope, I'm covered, I got it?
Well, I mean, it's top of mind, but it's, you surround yourself with good subs, right? We're as good as the subs and people that we surround ourselves with. So the people that we use, we know they have to be properly insured, and we make sure that they are insured. So, for example, they have to have workman's comp liability insurance for the tasks that they're doing. But we are also named as additionally insured on their insurance policies, generally at a minimum of $1 million.
So wait, help me figure out, what does that mean additionally named on their policies, Caleb? Like,
Yeah, if you came to me and Charlie was going to do some work for you, and I'm a plumber, I would need to be named as an additional insured. That gives Charlie the ability to be named on my policy, number one, which is so if I didn't pay my premium, then Charlie would know. It also gives a certificate of insurance. So I'm not giving Charlie my word that I have insurance. I'm actually giving him a legal binding piece of paper that I have an
that's
insurance
interesting.
policy.
And I also get that mailed to me from an insurance company. And it has happened many years ago. Let's say a guy doesn't pay his premium or whoever, and I actually will get a letter saying that they're no longer covered. So
Interesting.
it's really, you're really well protected by covering yourself.
it's essentially keeping you in the communication loop, and you guys are the ones sort of sitting back doing your due diligence and saying, hey, listen, you two, the sub and Charlie are connected.
Absolutely.
But now that connection's been broken, you're notifying them to let them know that.
Absolutely.
Get ahead of it, and maybe it just lapses, maybe it's an oversight, maybe the timing isn't right.
Sure.
Whatever the reason.
Whatever the reason, now you can jump in on it.
Yes.
A lot of things. But Charlie's not paying his subcontractor until he has that certificate of insurance in hand.
Right.
Right, gotcha.
You have to have everything in place.
All right, so Caleb, help me understand what Charlie should have as a general contractor. What are the sort of policies, what are the categories, what is he covering?
Well, Charlie and I have had this conversation. So Charlie carries a general liability policy, and on Charlie's general liability policy, he's got coverage for, a liability issue, a slip and fall, maybe installed something incorrectly or.
I'm sorry, a slip and fall, but who slips? Who falls? Him? A sub or me, the homeowner? I'm going to play the homeowner.
Let's say not you, the homeowner, but let's say somebody that he has coming in and
Doing the work.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Charlie also has coverage for tools and equipment, so that he has.
So if stuff starts walking off the job site,
That's exactly right.
then he can make a claim against some of that stuff.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
I get the tools part. Equipment covers like what? Generators, trucks?
Well, in my case, we have multiple trailers full of tools. We
trailers.
have a shop, you have staging. So in my case, I have a general, a policy that covers a certain occurrence. So if one trailer was to get stolen, it's covered for X amount of dollars. But I'm never worried that 3 trailers are going to get stolen and my shop's going to get, and my stage is going to disappear. So if I don't have a total loss of everything disappearing, because I'm not really worried about it, but one particular amount I'm covered for.
You guys are working with the GC to sort of help them think through those coverage levels and
Yeah,
stuff?
absolutely. So we're and it's our job as an insurance provider to make sure that we have that communication with someone who, maybe they started off, and they had $10,000 worth of equipment, and now they've got a trailer that they're taking to every job that has $50,000 equipment. You need to make sure that you're keeping up with that coverage.
I've seen this
and
guy's trailer. You
updating.
better up that policy.
Absolutely.
He's got
I think so.
he's got a lot of
I
projects
think
going
so.
on, including this massive one right here.
Yeah, so
okay, go ahead. Yep.
That's something that we deal with, we quite a bit. And, I talk to clients about, asking them to, can you shoot pictures of your tools or your workshop? Send that to me so I could save that in your file. And if you have a claim, we can reference that back and make sure that you get paid out quickly.
So one of the categories is that sort of slip and fall liability. The
Yeah,
other one
absolutely.
are the tools and the equipment. Is there something else he's carrying as well that you guys are underwriting?
Well, he would have in that general liability, you have an installation floater. So,
What is that?
So when Charlie, orders, let's say he orders $100,000 worth of windows for this building, while they're sitting here on the job site, if they're not owned by the homeowner until they're actually installed.
So at
So they're
that
on my
point,
policy
they're
until they're
yours.
installed.
And a lot can happen when they're on the job
Absolutely.
site still
Absolutely.
and so you've got to, so at that situation, Charlie's, if you will, forgive my, I don't know the terminology as well, but as those assets sort of show up on the job site, his liability increases,
Yeah.
but then at some point it will decrease when they either get installed or become someone else's problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of those things that you have to have communication with your agent about, right? So you don't want to be paying for $100,000 of windows sitting on a job site if they're installed and they're not yours.
Got it.
So,
But also now taking that, a lot of homeowners, as yourself is playing the homeowner role, how many homeowners actually know that whether it's your renovation or a new home, that you need to have proper insurance? So you would probably never even know that the $100,000 in windows that are on the job site, when they're installed, are actually now on your policy. So as a homeowner, you really need to be talking to your agent and asking the question, what happens if?
Okay, so let's jump to that then. Now I'm the homeowner and I'm coming to you and I'm wondering, all right, I'm about to go through this massive renovation. This guy's going to show up with all of his buddies. What do I need to be thinking about as a homeowner? I have a homeowner's policy already.
yeah.
Does it do anything for this mess that they're making, or do I have to think about it differently?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you want to have that conversation about increasing the coverage on your policy, okay, to take care of the
The new value of the
renovation.
home.
Exactly.
Is that what it is?
Exactly.
So if I'm putting in a $100,000 kitchen and bathroom renovation, that's what I'm thinking about, is the increased sort of equity in my house and stuff that I've got?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Am I going to add on something to say, I'm going to do some extra coverage on Charlie, or do I not have to worry about that?
You would have liability coverage there, but that's really where it goes back to, getting that insurance. You've planned, you've hired a general contractor, you've seen his insurance, so you know that the construction, the people that he has on site are going to be his responsibility.
Ask for the policy. Don't be afraid as a homeowner to ask the question. Person tells you that they're covered. Look, we all like to, believe somebody, but ask for that, that certificate.
I know a lot of Silvas. These guys, they're all slippery. So help me out here, Caleb. What should I ask Charlie to produce to me? If I've hired him as a general contractor, the homeowner, what do I ask him for? I have no idea what to ask him.
You just want to see a certificate of insurance.
He's going to hand me a piece of paper that says that?
100%.
Is it going to tell me like an amount or something?
Yeah,
that
it's going to tell you. It's going to tell you amount. It's going to tell you if they have, it's going to tell you that it's going to tell you everything from their automobile coverage to their liability coverage on their general liability. If he has workers' comp, it's going to be listed on the on the certificate.
And if I'm going through what I've estimated and the architect or the GC has said is a $500,000 renovation, it should at least have that number on it somewhere or more.
I think $1 million is a good starting point.
It's just $1 million.
Yeah,
probably
absolutely.
probably not a big difference between those numbers.
Cost effective to go with $1 million.
Gotcha. And then, so he hands me that, and then 3 days later, all these strangers are showing up because I don't know the plumbers or the electricians. am I looking them in the eye and saying, give me your thing, or is it all going through Charlie?
Ask it to the contractor.
That's
you know, you don't need to have communication with everybody. Obviously, it's nice to know who's working in your house.
Sure.
But, you know, also ask the contractor, how are they covered on your policy? How am I protected? You know, no question is a bad question, right? Because you don't know the answer, and we can all assume, and you know what happens when you do that. So literally ask them, are they covered? Are they named, as I said, my plumber, I'm named on their policy, Silva Brothers, on additionally insured on their policy. I require to see that certificate.
So
There's an insurance audit for that.
you're telling me to ask the plumber?
No, you ask the contractor.
Ask the
And
GC.
then he'll say, yeah, here's my subs certificates if it makes you
I got you.
comfortable.
So I could ask you then for your
Sure.
sub certificates.
Yeah, as Charlie, you know, as a good practice, every contractor, every general contractor should be keeping a list of all of the subs that they use.
Yeah.
You know, certificates of insurance, they're named on them. If the policy cancels, like we said earlier, you get that you get that notification that they've canceled. If they switch companies, you want to make sure
Yes.
that they're notified on the new listed as
And the
new company.
policy hasn't lapsed coverage. And then, in saying that, we haven't touched on workman's comp. I have to have workman's compensation even just to pull a building permit. They ask how many employees I have. And now it's not just that they're taking my word that I have certificate of for workman's comp. My insurance company actually has to email them a copy of it, and I will not get my building permit till the town sees.
That's for workman's comp. As the homeowner, I'm a little less concerned about that. Can he get a building permit if he doesn't have a policy for you for that liability and the tools and all that?
He would need the liability coverage.
He would need
pull
the
a permit.
liability.
Yes.
Is liability and workman's comp the same thing, or are those different
No,
things?
two separate things.
Those are two separate things.
Absolutely.
So at some level, he can't pull that permit unless he's got some of the
That's
basic.
right. That's right.
So I got a little bit of peace of mind there as a
Absolutely.
homeowner that'll pull, but I still should ask.
Absolutely.
You know, back to that windows. Do you want to say something?
Well, some red flags you want to be careful is someone's a contractor to say, oh, why don't you pull the permit? Because as a homeowner, you can pull your own building permit, and then that becomes
Interesting.
So you got to be careful of that.
Wait, what if I pull the permit?
You
What if
can,
I want to
right.
GC the project? Well, I know I can, but
Yeah.
what do I have to do with you then?
Sure. You know, if you're going to GC the project, that's fine. But just make sure you have to take over that responsibility of asking your plumber for his
Right.
certificate of insurance. You need to ask your electrician for that certificate of insurance, and that's not an issue. I could create a certificate of insurance for a client of mine. It takes me about 2 minutes to do.
Oh, okay.
So,
But what about, let's go back to those windows. When they showed up in boxes,
Yeah.
they were Charlie's problem.
right.
I'm GCing the project now as homeowner.
Yeah.
Probably not a good idea. But anyway, I'm going to give it a go.
Sure.
And those windows show up in boxes. My problem?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So that rider thing you talked about, what'd you call it?
Installation rider.
An installation rider.
yeah.
Am I now going to you and saying, as I'm the functional GC, I want an installation rider, just like Charlie would have?
No, they would actually be covered under your homeowner's policy.
Homeowners, okay.
Yeah, they would be covered under your homeowner's
But
policy.
you have to make sure you have enough insurance
gotta make
coverage.
sure you
So
have
it's not your
enough
basic
coverage,
home
yeah.
insurance that you've had all along until you start your big project.
So if I'm a homeowner and I'm going to GC the project, I got to call you.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to know the
Absolutely.
questions at, and you're going to walk me through it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then
That's good.
he would also probably ask you questions that you never even thought of and say, you make sure you have X, Y, Z.
He's going to ask me a million questions
Yes.
I never even thought of. I've never thought of insurance beyond like
Right.
my car policy and my homeowners, and I'm like, all right, two numbers
Right.
and I'm done.
Right.
So this is a little bit more complicated. You want to actually figure it out.
Yeah,
when you
exactly.
get into something like
the worst time to find out you don't have coverage for something is after a claim.
Yes.
Right? So
It's happened to me before with camera equipment. It was one of those things. Seriously, I was just like, oh my gosh, I love it. Anyway, as a homeowner, as I'm doing all of these things, and I come out the tail end through a successful renovation, whether it's done by Charlie or my own GC, and my house, just went from being worth $500,000 to $700,000. Does that automatically get me coverage, or am I now coming back and saying we got a new place here?
yeah, you'd have to come back to your agent, talk to them about the addition that you've just completed. I think if you're doing a major renovation like this building, Charlie could give you a great number and write an estimate for you on what
Right.
the replacement cost of this building would be. And insurance companies will take professional estimates. We could also work up, a replacement cost for you. And you could sit down with your agent and go through that process. Every company has different systems they use, but they're all very similar.
Gotcha. I'm fascinated by this window delivery thing, so I don't mean to harp on it, but I want to go back to it for 1 second. Charlie's the GC. I love all this role playing. Well, it's not role playing for you guys. I'm the only one role playing. But Charlie is the GC. The windows arrive. They're in boxes. They're his problem. Same thing if we got kitchen cabinets or anything like that. They're in boxes. They're your problem. When are they my problem?
When they're installed.
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 So when those windows are in the holes,
Yeah.
when the cabinets are hanging on the kitchen walls, they're mine.
Yes.
Refrigerators.
As well as the framing. So the framing went up. It's yours. So the windows go into the framing, right? So all the lumber shows up, still sitting there. It's me. It's mine.
Yep. Put it together.
Put it together.
Stand
it's
it up.
yours.
It's mine.
Right.
I doubt homeowners have any appreciation for when they are responsible for the stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But I do find that homeowners are concerned when they're going through renovations. They do ask a lot more questions.
Well, that's good.
when they're having when they're going through this process than they do on a normal basis.
Is there any way as a homeowner I can just call you up and say, give me everything I need, tell me the number? I mean, do I have to go through each one of these things and be like, I want to make sure that when the frame goes up and I own it all of it?
Really, not at all, because it's so specific on what you need as far as coverage. I have people that want just the basic, but really we need to have a conversation about what kind of assets you have,
Oh, I got a
what kind
lot.
of home you have.
Oh, yeah.
I got so
So
many
that's
assets,
really
I
how
just-
that's how we calculate
Yeah.
what kind of liability coverage you have.
Okay. All right. I've got a million more questions. I had never had any idea. I had no clue about this stuff. But anyway, I want to get to some of the folks who have been tuning in and have got questions for us live. If you guys are willing to entertain these, let's move to them. This is from Michael on Facebook, who's coming to us, and he says, "Are my tools and materials covered on the job site?" This is presumably a contractor. We've heard that answer. If you
Yep.
have that,
Absolutely.
but a subcontractor, Charlie's the general contractor. Maybe this guy's a subcontractor. He's a plumber. He's got a lot of plumbing tools. Are his stuff covered through his policy, or does it come on like my homeowners or Charlie's GC?
So he needs to have that coverage on his policy.
On his
so
policy.
The plumber needs to take out that
As
separate
his
coverage.
own.
Yep.
Charlie's not paying for
No.
his plumber's tools if they're
Right.
stolen.
I mean, think about it. I might have 6, 8 subs on a job, and all of a sudden, I'm carrying another $100,000 in liability.
Yeah. And so the next question, which comes from James on YouTube. James, we appreciate you tuning in. He goes on to say, hey, if my trailer gets broken into, are my tools covered? This is a theft situation. No difference, right? I mean, if that
Yeah,
can be covered through
exactly.
the same process and all
Yep,
of that.
exactly.
Okay, so Christopher on YouTube has got a question. And he says, as a landscape contractor, do I need separate insurance for when I snow plow in the winter? Holy smokes, that's brilliant. Because he's not really he's not landscaping anymore in the winter, but he is it's probably the way he thinks about his business.
Yeah.
I work in the yard a lot during the warm months and I plow. So in that situation, how does he handle that?
Yeah, so for that situation, we can write a policy that covers you as a landscaper under that classification. And then if you're going to do incidental snow plowing in the wintertime, we can add an endorsement under that policy to cover that classification as well.
But is it safe to assume that if he hasn't asked and you haven't written specifically for that, he's probably not covered?
Yeah, it's safe to assume that you would be in jeopardy of having a claim that was not covered.
And what's your thought process? It's not his primary work. He hasn't told us in advance that his landscaping will also be this thing in the winter. Like, where is that sort of demarcation between? I mean, he's working, right? But is it because it's not part of the primary business description? Like, when? I mean, that's an easy example, but I'm thinking of all these guys in the trades.
Well, we talked about this though, and it's if you're going from landscaping to plowing, it's not the coverage of driving the truck landscaping or driving the truck plowing. It's what can happen while you're plowing. We talked about it, whether it's an icy driveway for some reason, or you did put a pile of snow somewhere and somebody falls and slips. That's really the coverage that you don't have as the landscape driver versus the snowplow driver. And my other advice would be as a contractor or going out and doing things, ask the questions and say, so if you're doing 50 driveways or you're doing parking lots, don't try to skirt the issue to pay less money in the insurance and then be undercovered because you've done a parking lot and you're not covered because it's a commercial building or something, correct?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And we find for the most part that contractors are keeping coverage and they have a good amount of coverage because they're not getting paid unless they have the proper coverage. They need to provide that certificate of insurance, and the best motivation to keep that policy is getting paid.
It's getting paid.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Mark on YouTube writing into us, what's the difference between being bonded and being insured?
You want to go into that?
I think that's more you. You're
Okay.
right. Policy,
Yeah,
but
so we would look at, so we deal with bonding when it's a situation with like a performance bond, right? Or bid bond. So can you complete this project in a timely manner? Can you perform the duties that you're telling us you can?
I'm very interested in having a certain amount of work done, finished by a very particular date.
Exactly.
And the person says, I can do that.
Yep.
To give me comfort that that will happen, I can go to a third party, get a bond.
Exactly.
If it doesn't happen, I collect on that.
Yep, absolutely.
Is that something you see happen in the sort of residential world a lot, or is
Not
it
at
more
all.
commercial?
It's really, but it's actually not even commercial. It's more for municipalities.
Municipalities.
Yeah, that's where we would find.
I want the
bonding.
bridge fixed.
Exactly.
You better be done by June.
That's where we would find bonding take place.
Yeah, no faster way to lose your job as a politician than having the bridge out for 6 months longer. Get the bond going.
So, and to answer the second part of that, insurance would cover if there was, while you were building the bridge, if something happened, if you had a catastrophe, that would cover that portion.
Good. This one's probably very quick, and for you, Caleb, from Liam on YouTube, saying, do insurance laws and coverage vary by state?
They really, not even by state, they really town to town might
Really?
have different liability limits that you have to carry, different coverages that you have to carry as far as what type of liability coverage you're looking for, or what type of workers' comp coverage that you need.
I do a ton of work in Boston, but then I do a couple projects out in the burbs. I might have to look and abide by different rules,
Yeah,
have different levels
exactly,
of coverage, and
exactly.
certainly between states.
right.
Yeah.
And on that note, so to speak, is I run multiple jobs, right? So
Yeah,
whether I have
is this a nightmare for you, or do you just like? I mean,
insurance.
well, let me just say, it's like it seems to me like all of a sudden you've got multiple jobs, you've got a lot of subs, you've got all this equipment. Like, how do you deal?
It's not a nightmare to answer your question, but just jumping into it as a homeowner, listening and talking about this, I can see it being overwhelming. But so if I have 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9 jobs running at different levels in dollars, and I have $1 million policy, obviously that's not enough money. So I need to be covered for per occurrence, right? So if I, let's say, have a multi-million-dollar job working in this town and another one in that town, God forbid something happens to both, you want to make sure you're insured. I don't want to be insured for one and not the other, or that coverage is split between the two, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you're working through with Charlie and all that stuff.
We are. We're working through that. And a lot of people, Charlie and I were speaking earlier, he has an umbrella policy. So he has an additional $5 million of coverage above and beyond, which covers not only his general liability policy, but also covers his automobile insurance. So if one of his guys has an accident and does damage to somebody
You're
else's
responsible
property.
for your employees if they're driving on your time from one job to
Exactly.
the other. So, something happens, that's on me. That's not, oh, he wasn't working for me at that time frame. He was on coffee break.
Yeah.
No, he's on your insurance.
Absolutely.
Or she.
I would think that if one of your guys was on coffee break, they'd be at risk of a lot worse than.
I don't even think I have. I don't think I have coffee breaks anymore. Now that you say that.
Come on, get back to work. Get back to work. These Silvas, they drive a hard train. This one comes from Mary on Facebook. Caleb, for you specifically, what's the first thing you ask a contractor when they come to you? When Charlie says, "Hey, Caleb, help me out," what's the first thing you're asking them?
I just really want to know the scope of the projects that
Scope
he's
of the
working
project,
on.
yeah.
Exactly.
And get it right? I mean,
Exactly.
don't try to if you try to sneak it or downplay it, it's nothing but hurt.
Yeah, exactly. If you're doing lead abatement, I can't write you a janitorial policy, right? It's just not the right coverage.
And
for
at the
you.
end of the day, to be covered properly, with you have an insurance policy, and to be covered properly, maybe it's only 5-10% more.
Exactly.
So don't. And on my end, you don't try to undersell what I'm doing. Because the last thing you want to be is underinsured.
Exactly.
So
Gotcha.
go that extra couple of steps.
What are the pitfalls that you find that these guys run into? But by no fault of their own, but just the things that they aren't thinking through. What the changing evolution of. Do they often forget to file the paperwork, or is the price of materials go up, or do the jobs end up being bigger scope than they've told you to beginning? By no fault of their own, they just grow. Like, are those all potential pitfalls?
They are, but what I find the biggest pitfall that I run into with my contractors is that they're just unorganized, right? So So they're not asking.
Me.
But they're
Charlie's
not
face
asking.
just went white when he heard organized. What? No.
They're not asking for their certificates of insurance. They're not collecting those up front.
Yeah.
Or maybe they haven't provided a certificate of insurance, so they're not getting paid. So that's really the biggest thing that I find. I have people that call me and they're in a panic about a job that they did. They started this job 3 months ago and now they've got to get paid for it. So they really want their certificate of insurance.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things with a little planning, you can take care of that right away.
Okay, good. We are unfortunately out of time, gentlemen. We did not get to everyone's questions, so we apologize. We will be back doing more of these Pro to Pros, so hopefully you'll join us. Just a reminder that we are currently coming to you from an upcoming This Old House project on the North Shore of Boston, an 1890 shingle style. So for those of you who are following along, keep on following because there's a lot of exciting things going on. We would like to thank Charlie for his time, in addition to all the hard work he and his boys are doing here for us on the house, and also to State Farm and to you, Caleb, for your expertise, for your sponsorship of this, and for your friendship with us and the television show over many years. It's quite staggering when you think about it. And then finally, thank all of you for tuning in this afternoon and joining us for the live. Apologies for the questions we did not get to on another day. And with that, we are signing off. Everyone have a good afternoon. Thank you, ma'am.